Welcome to another episode of A Day in the Life of Rural Reentry. Last time we talked about how prisons do not put enough focus on preparing people for being successful after they leave the institution. And I want to clarify, I wasn't saying that there isn't any job training in prison. There is job training, but it varies tremendously from institution to institution, from facility to facility. It's mostly provided by either volunteer groups or by local community colleges. Let me tell you a story. Carl released in October of 2018, and he was fortunate enough in the institution where he was housed to be able to get an AA in diesel auto mechanics. This was his fourth incarceration for low-level drug and property crime. However, when Carl left the institution, he wasn't able to get a job working on cars because those low-level property crimes were for stealing cars and nobody was going to hire him. I don't know whose bright idea it was to encourage him to do this programming on the inside, knowing what his charges were, but it was just dumb. And it set him up for failure. But he wasn't discouraged. He got a job as a dishwasher, and he built a little employment history there. And then he applied for a position at a cabinet making production facility out here on Tualatin Sherwood Highway. And I remember the day that he called me to tell me that he'd gotten the job. And he said, "Jode, I'm so excited. I got the job. And then he asked, "Did they call you for a reference?" I said, "No, they didn't call me for a reference." He said, "Well, they called Charlie for a reference." I said, "Well, clearly Charlie's reference was sufficient." And he got quiet on the phone and he said, "Jodi, I'm 41 years old. I've been to prison 4 times. I've spent 17 years of my adult life behind bars. And this is the first time I ever knew you need a good reference to get a good job." Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, where Luke, who also got some pretty good job training on the inside through a program called the Oregon Correctional Enterprises, and that's basically a collaboration between the Department of Corrections and local companies where they get to manufacture their goods inside a prison and take advantage of the cheap labor that's there. And then the prisoners working in their manufacturing operation get some job skills, which hopefully will translate when they get out. Well, Luke had some good skills, and he eventually got a job last fall with a company as a forklift driver, and he obtained it through a temp agency. And the company was just getting ready to bring him on as a permanent employee when he was called into the boss's office and said, "I'm really sorry, Luke. You got to pick up your belongings and leave. We just did a criminal background check and we can't hire you after all." And he was so discouraged because the temp agency knew about his criminal background, but they didn't tell the factory or the warehouse where he had been placed about the criminal background. And so he was a great employee. They wanted to hire him, and it all falls apart at the last minute. So when Luke called me and told me this, I got this idea. I wonder if Carl has any openings, or if there are any openings where Carl works at the cabinet production facility. And so I texted Carl and he texted Luke, and numbers were exchanged and whatnot. And then the next day I am in foils under the dryer at the hairdresser's, and I get a text from Carl saying, "Hey, did Luke connect with the hiring manager?" I said, "Yeah, he has an interview today." And I thanked Carl so much for making the connection. He said, "No, thank you. You and Charlie and the other volunteers, you helped me so much. I am really happy to help out another guy." And 2 hours later, Luke called and said, "I got a job at the cabinet production facility too, and they know about my criminal record." That's how it's done. People helping people. Our prison system is an abysmal waste of time and money, and it doesn't give people the skills, the connections, or the confidence to make it out here in mainstream society. We do that. And yet in Oregon, we spend $1 billion a year on this broken, failing system. And I gotta ask, as taxpayers, are you okay with that?